next time. But hey, we're going to get started here. Welcome everybody. There's not many people on here, but I am the founder of Bridge City Connections, and the purpose and the mission of gathering the entrepreneurs and business owners is to provide the resources and connect you guys with the people who are doing the AI, doing the real estate, doing the finance, doing, it's tax season coming around, right? So we want to connect you guys with the right resources in order to grow your business or make it more seamless. That's my business mission as the founder. We've been doing this for, almost a year and a half, 2 years now, and we're going to continue to provide more resources and connect you with people like James, who we have here today. We're excited for James to show us a little bit about AI and automation, more specifically towards the lead generation side of things today. Right. So James is going to do majority of the talking. I'm going to turn my mic off once James gets started, and then he's going to take it away from here. There's a little bit of echo, so everyone we'll keep our mics off while James does his thing, and then at the end we'll go over anything if anyone has any questions or anything like that. We can go over that at the end. So, James, you ready to take it? You ready to take it from here?
Yep. Yeah. Thank you, Jordan, again for giving me this opportunity. I'm excited. Obviously, I wish it was under better circumstances, but this weather has been really rough. So kind of what we're gonna try and basically go over today is just AI as a whole, automations, and kind of when to decide between whether you want to use an automation, whether you want to use AI, or you want to use a mix of both. Obviously, there's a time and place for all of the above. And a lot of companies that we're seeing nowadays are trying to they're too deep into the buzzwords rather than trying to just do what actually needs done. And they're overcomplicating things and going into AI when they should just be kind of using a simple tool that's already created. So let me share my screen real quick. But basically, just a little background about myself. I am, I started doing AI automation almost around a year ago. Kind of just building systems for myself, building systems for small businesses in the area, as well as across the country. Just kind of being able to get people's foot in the door on simplifying their business so they can focus on growing it rather than just doing it and just running the business. So what I do now is obviously I'm a system integration specialist, but I'm also an AI pricing analyst for a logistics company. In that role, I deal heavily all day, every day, basically programming systems that are automations and AI for a company where we can be able to use and leverage technology to bid quicker, win more freight, and ultimately create more revenue inside of our company. So kind of today, what we're going to go over is kind of go into the black box of AI, just quickly go over neural networks, transformers, and the actual compute level decision making that goes into AI to just kind of give you an idea of exactly what goes on under the hood, because everyone knows that AI just kind of acts like a brain. But once you look into it more, you can realize, okay, maybe it's not going to be as good as I thought it would be for this decision or this system. So we're also going to go over the automation architectures, kind of go over event-driven systems, API integrations, as well as the decision framework, whenever kind of go over when you should use automations, when you should use AI, or you should just leave the task to a human to do. We also kind of review cost benefits of using AI, of using automations, as well as when you should just try and build it yourself versus find someone like myself or someone else, like a software engineer, to come in and build it for you. And then finally, what we'll go over is just I'll show you a live system that I've built for another company for lead generation and outreach that encompasses automation as well as AI under one hood. So, kind of getting beyond the buzzwords, AI is basically just mathematical pattern matching, not actually intelligence. So it's really funny whenever you say it's artificial intelligence, it's actually more along the other word that people call it, machine learning. It really is just a bunch of ones and zeros that are intertwined. So basically, whenever I have ChatGPT write an email, it's performing matrix multiplication across 1.8 trillion parameters to basically predict the most likely next token. That's it. So rather than processing things and actually thinking like a human brain, it just pattern matches everything so that you can think that it is helping you, but really the only thing AI can do is take what is on the internet, what is in the model, and then predict the next outcome. So it's kind of a replacement for domain expertise because it can be so knowledgeable using the internet. Obviously, everyone uses the internet, everyone's learned anything they've known from the internet, whether it's textbooks, they're on the internet. AI knows that, Wikipedia, PhD level papers. And it's able to also understand context like a human, which was why whenever you're talking to ChatGPT, it feels more human than texting a human because it's not just giving you a K or a what's up, it's giving you full conversational answers. Now, I know a lot of people probably have had ChatGPT and trusted it to give you correct answers. And at least in my experience, it has given wrong answers a lot. And that goes back to it's not a problem with the coding itself. It's that artificial intelligence isn't actually intelligence. It's just predicting the next token. So now diving even further into how AI actually makes decisions, this is just a simplified neural network architecture. So this first layer is the input layer. This is where data gets tokenized and converted to vectors. Vectors are just arrays of numbers. Again, ones, zeros, ones through nines, can be billions of numbers, all in a vector, and that vector represents a string. So inside the layers, you then go into the hidden layers. So each hidden layer makes a connection, and each connection has a learned weight from the training of the model. And then it creates forward propagation, which does the input multiplied by the weights, and then creates the activation functions, and then ultimately spits out the output. Now, the output is basically just probabilities, like I said before. It's 85% support request and about 15% inquiry. So it's really just using things that have already been trained in the model, and it can't learn new items unless it is programmed to be able to use human input to learn and make different decisions in the future. Now, modern LLMs use attention mechanisms where each token can attend to every other token, and that's why GPT has over 1.8 trillion parameters. I think 5.2 is up to over 3 trillion at this point, and every connection has that learned weight. But all this complexity means latency and cost, and when speed, efficiency, and keeping costs is low, it can become a detriment rather than a positive outcome for your business, because each request processes billions of calculations. Every time you even just say hello, it's billions of calculations being processed just to give a response. And that's why API costs are per token and why this inference time matters whenever it comes to actually integrating AI into your business and having to pay those $1,500, $2,000, up to $10,000 a month API costs. So real quickly, I'll just go over the architecture of an LLM. So tokenization, the text goes in and creates numerical tokens, which then goes into embeddings, creates high dimensional vectors, which are usually 1536 to 4096 dimensions. And then it goes into that detention layer, calculates how each token relates to each other. This is usually the most computationally expensive part. After that, it then moves into the feed forward layer, and nonlinear transformations are in this layer, and this is basically where the knowledge lives. From there, it goes into the probability distribution and samples from around 50,000 to 100,000 possible next tokens. And that's where you get that prediction, which then creates the outcome. So to kind of do a little bit of a model comparison on some of the older models, GPT-4 had 1.8 trillion parameters, had a 32,000 context window, and it cost $50 to $100 million to train. Now, as you can see, Claude was much smaller, but had a much larger context window. So in these differences, you can see that bigger isn't always better, because yes, you can have way more parameters and there can be way more knowledge, but whenever you're a business owner and you want a process done fast and low cost, you would rather go with one with 500 billion parameters or even 32 billion. I mean, I use 8 billion parameter models on a daily basis for a lot of my tasks because of how inexpensive, fast, and reliable they are. And another thing you want to look at is your context window. If my AI is kind of doing data analysis, I have an AI that does data analysis on over 100,000 different records in a database every single day. And rather than using one that only has a 200,000 context window, which would take a lot of quantization, I would have to do 8-bit quantization, which basically is kind of reforming the model to be able to go over its context window. So rather, I use Grok 4.1 fast reasoning, which is cheaper than GPT, cheaper than Claude, and has a 2 million context window, allowing me to input all of that data in at once and get a result back from the entire system in under a minute and a half. So another good cost example of this would be, say you have an AI system that's doing 1,000 customer support emails a day. Each email it reads is around 800 words or 800 tokens. So that's 800,000 tokens daily, which would be $36 a day in API costs, which would be over $1,080 a month in API costs. Obviously, this can, based on the size of your company, this might be, okay, this is a good investment. I have AI handling all of my backend email inputs, outputs, logging them into my database. But you could also use an in-house model, an open source model that's completely free. So there's just kind of a lot of different weights that you have to do as a business owner on when you want to implement AI. If you're doing it yourself, what model do you want to use? Do you want to go and pay for a model? Do you want to just say, hey, this process, I can do it without having to expend a lot of effort as a human to do it? I can have an AI that can do it computationally with minimum compute charges and go even further and say, okay, I will use a free model instead. A great website that, if you haven't heard of, to use AI for free through APIs, it's called Open Router. It's great. It has free Claude models, DeepSeek models, Meta's models. It has some free Grok models, and a lot of other models it has are kind of fine-tuned by individuals. Another great application you can use is Olama. Olama will allow you to download these models onto your personal computer and run AI locally for free, using Mistral models. Again, Mistral, Llama. Even NVIDIA has models nowadays that you can use for free and download. And this is a great tool where you can have it live on your computer inside your own ecosystem. If you're a company that deals with sensitive data, you're not having to worry about you using an API, sending that sensitive customer data, sensitive company data, anything like that outside, because it's all in-house. Now, for automations, we're going to kind of go that way. Went over AI. Good. I know it was a little deep. Probably didn't make too much sense. AI, I deal with AI every day. It still wows me and doesn't make full sense to me either. So for automations, there's kind of three main patterns inside of an automation. So you have your rule-based, your API-driven, and your event-driven. Rule-based automation is, which I'm bet all of you have heard of. It's if-then logic. So if A happens, then B needs to happen. It's deterministic, predictable. Basically, like if I receive an email containing an invoice, then I'm going to want the automation to save it to my accounting folder. Is basically to define rule-based. For example, in my company, we have a system that whenever we receive an email that contains the word quote request in the subject, it then sends that email into a system to parse out that email and then send it down the line. So API driven. If you don't know what an API is, it's an application program interface. It basically is the way that every single application you use is able to work with each other. So it does system-to-system communication. Say you use JotForm and you have customers fill out a form on your website. They submit that form and you can have it integrated to where it automatically fills out your database or your CRM, or sends you a notification via Slack or email or Telegram. API is kind of the number one thing that not only I use, but almost every company uses to integrate different systems in, as well as event-driven. Event-driven triggers on state changes. So say your database is updated, you update a phone number, or you update an email on a customer's information in the database. It will know that, okay, this email was just updated. Then it will send that email address and the customer's information into the system and send them a new email outreach to them immediately. A lot of modern SaaS companies use serverless compute as well. So this is like AWS Lambda, a ton of cloud functions, which can be used on Google Cloud Console. And these respond to events. These are kind of like webhooks. And they're great because you can host them, you can stand them up on Google Cloud, for example, which is what I mainly use. And you really only pay for them when they actually run and are executed against. So we went over AI. We kind of went over automations. Now, the next thing is kind of the decision that you have to make between wanting to use AI, wanting to use automation, or wanting to use human, or using a mixture of all three or two. So for data entry from forms, especially, this can be purely automated. I mean, it's completely the same exact process. It's deterministic. It's exact same format, so it's predictable. You don't need AI for this. You don't need an AI to be given the data from a form and then put it into your database. Now, if it was, for example, you were receiving emails from a bunch of different people and they weren't all giving you the same exact format. Someone just gave you like a 2-word subject and then wrote 3 paragraphs, and you want all those emails kind of parsed up and put into your CRM or put into your database. This is where you would want to use AI to basically read that email, and then you can give it the instructions to, okay, I want you to pull out their name, email, what they were talking about, summarize it, and then log it here. That's where you'd want to use AI, excuse me. But if it's just a simple form, there's really no point. It's a waste of money. You can set up an automation for free that would do that for you. Now, AI, say I do want to use AI because I am getting emails that I need parsed out. Say I'm a construction company owner and I spend all day on the job site, but I have people reaching out to me asking for quotes, asking if they can come look at my house I want to do a renovation on. I want to renovate the bathroom. If they send me an email, now a lot of businesses, especially small business owners, time is money. You have to be on the job site running your crew or doing your job, and they don't have the time to do all the outreach or the responding to emails. They don't have the bandwidth to be able to hire someone that can do it for them. This is where AI and automation can come in, because AI excels at understanding intimate and sentiment. So say they send an email and want you to come out. That AI can read that email, know, okay, this person wants this done at their house. They're looking for a quote. You don't give quotes immediately, or you do. If you don't, then you can have the AI send back, hey, it can look into your calendar, then come back and email them back and say, hey, I can be there on this day at this time or this day at this time. Please let me know what works best for you. The customer gets that response in under 5 minutes after reaching out to you. They're happy. They send it back. Hey, I want this day. Great. Boom. AI then books it into your database, books it into your calendar, and you get a notification saying, hey, you have this coming up next now. So that's kind of an example of where you'd want to use AI and automation, because not only does it solve one problem, but it personalizes that outreach to the customer to where they feel like, okay, this person was able to respond to me so quickly and not just write back an email that sounds basically like a robot and it's an exact same template as every other email. Another good one is Another good combination is contract reviewing. If you deal with a ton of contracts, you can use a combination of automation and AI. So automations, they can scan for the different clauses of the contract, pull them out based on keywords and a lot of regex patterns. Then you can send all these clauses into AI, and AI can assess the risk of those clauses. Then this is where you'd want to put human in the loop, because again, it's legal. It's legal paperwork. You don't want AI just automatically approving contracts. Then you can send that list of risks, list of clauses to a human, can then review them, click a button, and then the system, the automation can continue to work. So kind of your decision criteria when picking between AI, automation, or human is one, how much volume is there, and is it repeatable in the same exact way? In at least for volume and repeatability, this is where you would say, okay, well, then I can use automation or AI. Two is where you come to pattern recognition versus rules. If it's pattern recognition, then you're going to want to use AI. AI is very, very strongly programmed to be able to recognize patterns. But if it's rules, this is where you can just give a set structured set of rules into an automation that can scan it, look over a regex pattern of it, and just be able to pick out those rules, decide whether to keep going, stop, make a certain decision. Again, those if-then statements. Another big thing you want to look at is cost of errors. If something has to be 100% correct all the time, this is when you'd want to use automation with human in the loop and not AI. Yes, AI can be programmed to be near perfect, but there are instances where AI can make wrong decisions. It can fill out data wrong. It can read something wrong, and it can be detrimental and very costly. A fourth thing you'd want to look at is regulatory requirements. Are you dealing with HIPAA data? Are you dealing with personally identifiable information? Are you dealing with SOC 2 compliance? Are there any different roadblocks where you have to be compliant and your data has to be secure, where you can't use AI? Because if you are using AI and you aren't using that local model downloaded onto your computer, this is where things can get detrimental and even cause legal battles, because you could put yourself at risk of exposing someone else's information, exposing your information. And there's a lot of black hat hackers out there that just go into AI databases or query AI in certain ways, and they're able to get a lot of information out of you or out of the AI about you. So you have to look at that. If there's anything like that, you want to look into it, or you just want to skip using AI as a whole. Now, the fifth part would be your training data quality. Training data, if you're using a local model, for example, or AI at all, you're going to want to make sure you have enough data to where it can decide for itself based on past experiences if it's going to be able and be able to make proper decisions. If AI can't run enough practice queries on itself to make confident decisions, it's going to give you bad outputs. Bad outputs lead to lost business, lost money, increase of costs, more time of you having to, rather than just let the automation or the AI run, more time of you having to deal with that customer, deal with that company, deal with fixing your company if something really went wrong. So you kind of just really want to look at, okay, do I want to use automations? Do I want to use AI? Or do I want to keep it a human? The easiest way to put this is, if I do the same thing every single day for my business on my computer and it's the exact same process, I can definitely use an automation for that. If it's the exact same, I type the exact same things, I click the same buttons, or there's just small little intricate differences in between that process. That's where automations come in, and they will do it for you. You can have it run however many times a day, 24/7 if you want. Now from there, say, yes, okay, I'm doing the exact same thing every day. I do the same process, but there's a lot of different outputs, or there's a lot of different inputs. This is where you'd want to stack that AI on top of that automation. This is where you'd want the automation to start. Whether it's emails, it'll pull in that email, send it to the AI. The AI will decide what to do next, whether it's delete it because it's spam, or let you know you have a new customer that wants a quote, anything like that. This is where you would then want to use AI on top of it. Now, the third layer will then be human required. Does it have to be perfect? Again, you can use AI. It's not going to be perfect. If it needs to be perfect, this is where you'd want a human in the loop to approve or deny it. Or you could even go further if you're technical or you have more time, and build an AI that acts as a human in the loop to approve things. And you give it the set of rules and set of structures of data that it needs to be able to move on and proceed with sending out a quote, sending out an invoice to someone. So these numbers are kind of the true cost of if you were to not use a simple automation platform, but build something in-house personally. So usually it's an initial development, depending on the project, of $5,000 to $250,000. Now I know not everyone, but a lot of people in here, small business owner, no one really wants to drop 5K just to get things going. And then on top of that, you got the platform and API costs, the integration effort, which is hundreds of hours mostly by the time you're done with it. Training and change management. This can take up to 6 to 12 months before you even see a positive return on it. Now, what kind of solves this is rather than building in house, you can buy off shelf or use companies that already have automations built out, like N8N, Make, Zapier, where you can use those where it's $25 a month. You just have to plug a few things together and you can tweak them. You control most of your data. It integrates with third party APIs from thousands of different connectors. Or you can do a hybrid approach of, hey, I want something like that. I don't want to pay the thousands of dollars. I want to pay a few $100, but I still want to be able to learn how to do it. That's when you can kind of do a hybrid and hire someone like myself or someone else, kind of building these systems that can not only show you how to do it, but build it for you and then give it to you, set it up on your end for you, and then show you, hey, you can make changes like this, or hey, here's how you watch how much it's spending, how long it's running for, what data it's storing, anything like that. So, like I said before, there's the API middleware. This is kind of where you use that Zapier, Make, and N8N. These are through REST APIs, webhooks, and OAuth authentication. This is going to be your least cost. I believe N8N is $25, $26 a month. Make, I think, is around $20 a month. And I'm not entirely sure on Zapier, but I would definitely look into N8N. They have 10,000 plus different pre-built workflows. They also, Claude AI also, if you prompt it right, can build you an entire workflow on there. On N8N, it will give you the JSON file for the entire workflow, which you can then download, upload into N8N, and it will be pre-built, and you just have to get all the APIs connected. The other one would be direct integration. This is kind of what software developers do. They use SDK, software development kits, as well as API clients to do point-to-point connection between specific systems. Now, this is more complex. This is something that a software engineer or software analyst would have to do for you, unless you're very technical. And this is a lot faster, but it's also a lot more brittle. It has to be. You have to make sure your headers are right, your authorization, your application type, your body text is being sent in the proper format. You have to make sure your API key is set up and that it's not going to expire. There's a lot more monitoring and it can cost a lot more. Now, database replication is another common integration pattern. This is kind of when you're using Airbyte or Fivetran, and this allows you to sync data via ETL pipelines. Again, kind of complex, but you can use API middleware instead to connect to Airbyte or Google Sheets or SQL or basically any database that you use. You can connect through that N8N or Zapier or Make. Now, there's also custom microservices, and these are your most expensive. These are going to a software developer and saying, hey, there's nothing out there for exactly what I need. I need you to build this for me. Now, these are highly complex. They're for complex workflows. You don't need them. You can find something. There is always something out there that you can integrate and just make tweaks to and be able to just start simple, scale complexity as needed, and then just go from there. Now, a good rule of thumb for when you want to do it yourself is going to be if it's a single platform automation. You're going from Gmail to Google Sheets. You're going from Gmail to ChatGPT to Airtable. This is where you'd want to use those no-code tools like Zapier, Make, and N8N, or pre-built AI integrations like ChatGPT plugins, Claude tools. You would want to use these for non-critical processes, because these ones can fail and still not have a major impact on your company. So you would also want it to start small. You don't want to be running one web system or one workflow over 1,000 times a day. I think the most that I run some of my workflows, I do a lot of them are API called. So if data is sent to it, it will be called. Some run around every 5 minutes, 24/7. Some even just run once a day or once a week. You just want to make sure that you're not running something that success is critical or failure is expensive. That's when you're going to want to hire someone. If it's a multi-system integration where you're integrating 3+ platforms, you can do it. It just can get kind of, when you're getting into the weeds of making sure that you can get data from A to B to C to D, that everything has to be set up properly. And if you don't know data structures, you don't know database calls, it can kind of get a little bit rough. As well as custom AI model development. I would love if everyone could build their own AI. It would make everyone's lives easier, but when it's not the world we're in yet. It's just not, no one has the infrastructure or the money unless you're a multi-billion-dollar corporation to train your own LLM. This is when you would basically want to hire someone because, one, it doesn't have to be billions of dollars to train one. You can take a simple base model and fine-tune it. Again, this can cost a lot in compute hours and compute engine power because you need a very strong GPU. You need a ton of RAM. You need a ton of CPUs. This is where you'd want to hire out as well. Sensitive data handling, like I mentioned before, PII, PHI, PCI, as well as regulatory compliance, GDPR, HIPAA, SOC 2. These are where you might want to hire out because, yes, it's possible, but a professional will know better to be able to get over those hurdles that we see every single day that can cause companies, it can cause individuals like myself or like you to get into regulatory and legal issues. As well, like I said, if it's mission critical, if it fails and stops your business, look at outsourcing that work because you want to make sure it's completely right. Now, whenever you do go to build your own system, or even starting today, kind of afterwards, look over your processes that you use in your business every single day. Kind of identify the bottlenecks, identify the issues, identify where you're wasting more time that you should be focusing on your business, or actually doing the work in your business, or focusing on growth, or it's tax season, focusing on your taxes. Identify those places that are holding you back from growing. You also want to kind of assign a time value to that. How many hours are you spending doing this task? How many different platforms are you using to do that task? Kind of map those out. And then based on each process, you can kind of score them by the return on investment potential and assess that technical complexity, identify whether building a business case and building a system would actually be beneficial in automating that process and helping your business get to where it needs to go quicker. So you're going to want to start with one process. Don't say, okay, I know everyone has all these different processes they want to get automated in their head, but you're just going to want to go one by one and give some space and time in between trying to do each one so that you can make sure, okay, that one's working. And then by the end of it, you're going to be able to just have hopefully 50% of your business automated over time. Yes, it's a long process, but it's better to do it the right way than do it quick and the wrong way and cause you to lose more time, lose more money, and lose more business, even if you're doing lead outreach. So, like I said, here's some recommended tools. Zapier, good one. Make, N8N. AI integrations are the OpenAI API, Claude, LangChain, Airbyte, and then if document parsing, Doc Parser, AWS Text Track. There's also Zendesk, custom chat GPT integrations. Just start with the simplest tool that you know, and you can always upgrade. So I'm going to kind of just go over a simple system real quick to show you. Let me change my screen. So this is a simple, well, not so simple, but a good Google lead scraper. So basically what this system does is it takes whatever businesses that, say you work with businesses in the area. For example, this is one that this was built for a catering company that wanted to do lead outreach to companies in the local area. So what this system does is it would run once a day, Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. It would go into Google Sheets, go through this industry
Hey
rotation
James,
list.
sorry to cut you off. We can't. Are we supposed to be seeing the demo, or is it just the slide? I think you.
Let me. There you go.
There
Okay,
we
so
go. Yep.
This is a simple workflow. Like I said, starts in time, goes into Google Leads, pulls out something from this. So, for example, say today is for an accounting firm or a law firm. It will read that, pull out that name. Okay, we want to pull a law firm out. And then from there, it will go into a Google Maps API, and it will call that law firm name. So this was in Beverly Hills. It'll look for law firms in Beverly Hills, and then it will output a bunch of different places. So usually, like for this one, Google Maps API does around 20 places at a time per API call. So it will take that, it will filter them through and see if there's any that you already have in your system. And then if it's not empty, it'll update that index, keep going down the system. It'll process and clean those results because you don't want to send dirty data, quote unquote, to an AI. It'll clean those fields, remove any duplicates, check if there's a website. If they have a website, it will keep going, and then it will split into batches. So from here, it will call another API through Appify. This is a contact scraper. This contact scraper will ingest the website. It will go onto the website, find any emails, phone numbers, people's names on the website, and then aggregate that into a list. Then again, it will process that through simple code that an AI can write for you. It will score that email. If there's multiple emails, it'll pick which one's the best one for you to reach out to based on your goal. If it exists, for this one, she wanted a headcount estimator. Give it the business information. It will estimate how many people are in that office. Then it will go into the email writer. This is where prompt engineering becomes a good thing. You want to keep it short and sweet, obviously, for token context, and token, and API costs. But this is where you can say, hey, write a personalized cold email for a restaurant, for their catering business. here's their information. It wants to kind of look like here's an example. And then it'll output an email. For example, this one output one to Maccabi Law Group. It'll give you a subject. It'll personalize it as much as it can based on the information that it has. And then from there, it will send that email automatically for you. Log it. If it's successfully sent, log it into that Google Sheets. And then keep going down the line for all 20 of those. Now, a big thing you're going to have to do if you build something like this is deal with API rate limitings, especially on Google Sheets. Google Sheets is their API rates are not, API rates are, they're not costs. Rates are how many times you can hit an API in under a minute before it does not let you send any more data. So example for this is where we have to use exponential backoff, where it will realize, okay, it did not send, we got rate limited, we now have to wait. We can retry it, and then it will do max retries. If it doesn't work after a certain time, it will error out. There's a lot of different things that you will want to make sure that you're putting exponential backoff and retries on. So for example, I'll just run this once to kind of give a quick overview of how it works. So as you can see, it just goes through the line, scrapes that contact after pulling all the other information. And workflows like this, like I said, I will put a link to all the different applications that I use. You can use this for any business that you're looking to sell to other businesses in any area. A company that I worked with was a logistics company in the past who wanted to reach out to importers in other countries. So we used a workflow similar to this to reach out to give a subject, whether it was importing medical supplies or importing fruit or coffee in certain countries, and having it look through the different hotspots of those countries, getting the company's information and then reaching out to them. So there's, especially in lead generation, I know lead generation is hard. It takes a lot of time. This is one of the systems where you can have an extreme ROI and be able to save tons of time from having to go back and forth from sourcing your leads by just looking up random companies. You don't even have to do it through Maps. You can do it through LinkedIn, Apollo Leads. If you have a list of just people, or you want to just do a bunch of people in a phone book, you can reach out to anyone through this type of automation. So I saw a question from Aiden in the chat about concurrent executions and managing resource isolation. So for this one, in event loops, you're kind of going to want to do a different form of like exponential backoff, where yes, NAN isn't scalable to the extent of extremely high workflow computes. In here, you would almost want to use completely different, whether you're doing it in VMs or you're just running them locally on your own machine. This is where you're going to want to use different kind of sources to host or different APIs, because, well, I guess I have a question. Is your memory limit, are you talking about your compute, or are you talking about an AI's memory limit?
I'm not sure where he went, but we can take questions at the end. We have about less than 10 minutes left, anyways.
All right.
So the last 5 minutes, when you finish up, we can take questions.
Yeah, I can wrap up now. So, like, for example, that workflow, as you can see, it's populating these law firms into the system. It gives you ID, business name, website, email, phone number, address. Even goes as far as to get their LinkedIn, industry, headcount, rating, and then tells you if the email was sent, the lead was created, things like that. So this is where you can get really kind of granular and have it do exactly what you need for your business. Now I know we're running out of time, so I won't go too much more into detail on some of the other things that like the workflows can do. But yeah, if you are interested in learning more about these, I can send you my information. You can reach out and I can just show you some, as well as for local, if you're kind of more technical, I can show you some actual programming softwares that I have that I've, well, programs that I've written that do this rather than using a platform like N8N and doing it locally on your computer, through Node or through Python or through Playwright IDE. But yeah, we can open it up to questions in the last few minutes.
Awesome, James. I want to give you a round of applause because that was an incredible presentation, bro. Um, we're going to open this up for questions. Again, I'm Jordan with the founder of Bridge City Connections. I thank everyone for being here. This is simply Bridge City, simply to bring resources and opportunities to business owners and professionals like you guys. So thanks again for showing up. For questions, if you guys want to turn on your mic, whoever wants to go first, turn on your mic. We only have about 5 minutes left. So if you want to get in these questions quickly, let's do that. Whoever has a question first, go ahead and start it up. I know Aiden must have dipped out of here. I'm not sure where he went. So his question's gone. But does anyone else have a question?
What's up, everybody? That was a great presentation, by the way.
No, man.
My name is Jordan Herbert, for those who don't know. Really enjoyed that, James. So I'm developing a platform currently, and one of the things that we've run into is that, so we use agents to kind of scrape these online websites. So, like, for instance, in pulling lead generation, we're scraping the Allegheny County Wills and Orphan database, which basically you go on there, you search by a case date range, and then you get a PDF that has like handwritten text on it. So we're having some challenges right now because, like,
hey, I'm on a call. Yeah, can you drop that in
making
the
that so
mailbox?
that it's faster.
Yeah, which one's
Basically,
it's the rear number
being
2.
able to parse those handwritten notes and implement
Appreciate
them
it, bro. I'm gonna come out and
faster
grab that soon.
and get more accurate
All right, I'll
results.
talk
So
to you
that's
soon, brother.
something that wanted to know if you had any insight on.
Yeah, great to meet you. Yeah, so handwritten notes are kind of something that they're very doable nowadays. The only issue you can run into, so it can be that the handwriting isn't eligible. But for kind of PDFs like that, PDF Plumber is a good system. I don't know. What do you use now for your PDF parsing?
So I don't know if there's a specific platform. Everything that we have now has been custom built.
Do you know the libraries that they used?
No, I'm the sales guy and the idea man, and then I leave all that to guys like you. So like I know enough to kind of make myself dangerous and ask good questions and help the team like solve problems, but as far as the intricacies